Oh, hold on. Okay, well, I want to welcome all of you guys to our Arctic webinar wrap-up. It's really fun to see all your faces again and reconnect with you. I'm glad you managed to get through Zoom and be able to join us for the most part. So we are hopefully going to use this evening's time to kind of recap where you all went and talk about what you might be doing with your experience since you got back into the classroom, and send out a few little reminders about things that you need to be doing. Before I do that, I'm going to be doing some screen sharing, so that hopefully won't mess up your bandwidth too much. But before I screen share, I want to go around the room and have there's some other people, researchers that some of the teachers might not have seen for a while or remember, and some others. I think everybody else knows each other, but let's just kind of do a quick recap of who you are and where you went and with your researcher, because a lot of the researchers aren't here. So I'm going to start with Stan, and just unmute yourself and introduce yourself again.
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
So I'm Stan Skatnicki from Cheektowaga Central Middle School, right outside of Buffalo, New York. And I was with Mike Loranci in northeastern Siberia, studying vegetation impacts on permafrost.
Okay. All right. Mark Busing, go ahead.
Sorry, I had to find the unmute again. I was 2013. I was with Operation Icebridge, flying out of Greenland, and I was Kelly's mentor this season.
And we're glad you're here. Good job, mentor.
Thanks.
Okay, Mike Loranci.
Hi, yeah, I'm Mike Loranci. I'm at Colgate University. I was working with Stan Skatnicki this summer in northeastern Siberia, and looking at, as Stan indicated, we're looking at how vegetation and ecosystems influence permafrost temperatures.
Okay, great, thanks. And Kelly.
Hello, I'm Kelly McCarthy, and I was on the NASA Operation Icebridge Arctic campaign this year, and Mark was my mentor, an amazing one. So there we go.
Sandy.
Hi, I'm Sandy Thornton, and all of the cats in the neighborhood and in our house have decided to go crazy, so I keep hearing cats scratching on the door. I was on the Healy with Katrin, and we were in the Chukchi borderlands, and studying everything, as I tell my students. So biodiversity and water chemistry and bacteria, and just lots and lots of things, and lots of things to learn as well.
Cool. All right. We're going to go to Nell. We don't hear you, Nell. And we did hear you before.
No, I just unmuted.
Oh, there you go. Now we got it.
I don't know, technology. I'm Nell Kemp. I was 2013 and 2016. And 2016, I went up to Tulik with Becky Hewitt, and we studied the root systems in falling permafrost soils and mycorrhizal relationship.
Okay, great. DJ.
Hi everybody, my name's DJ. I run K through 12 STEM education programs for low-income students here in the Los Angeles area. I went up with another researcher that's on here, so I'll have him explain a little bit more, but I also went up to Tulik and studied microbes.
Okay. Becky. You're muted. There you go. I don't hear you though. Wait for it. Maybe it'll come. Maybe it'll come. Say something. No, not happening.
How about now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Becky Hewitt, and I was working with Nell Kemp up at Tulik and in Healy, Alaska, looking at plant acquisition of deep permafrost nitrogen.
Okay. Karen.
Hi, everybody. My name is Karen Temple Beamish. I'm a science teacher in Albuquerque at an independent school, 6 through 12. I am also the sustainability director and the director of the Desert Oasis Teaching Garden. I got the privilege of going up to Denali area with Marguerite Moritz, and we studied the carbon balance in a heating, drying land, tundra.
Good to see you too. Okay, I'm going to move up to Katrin.
Yeah, I'm Katrin Eichen. I'm with the University of Alaska Fairbanks. And so Sandy already said she went with us on the icebreaker Healy up to the Chukchi borderlands region in the Arctic Ocean. And we used a number of different tools, new technologies such as ROV and traditional sampling methods to look at sea ice, microbial, pelagic, and benthic systems.
Okay, good to have you here. And Byron.
I'm on a conference call.
My last one?
No, I'll go to Ann next.
All right, well, I'm Byron Crump. I'm coming to you from Oregon State University. I took DJ up to Alaska to Tulik Field Station last summer to study the biogeography of microbes. We took a lot of DNA samples and flew around in helicopters. Had a good time.
Sounds rough. And your audio sounds better all of a sudden.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. Anne.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, because I'm working off my phone, and that's strange. So I'm Ann Scheffler. You are muted. You are unmuted.
Keep talking.
You're
Right. Good, Ann.
Yeah. Okay, I'm Ann Scheffler. I teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade science in Hudson, Ohio. I went to Greenland with Christine Urbanowitz, and we studied primarily blueberry plants, some others as well, and the pollinators that pollinate them somewhat successfully, mostly mosquitoes and flies, and occasionally the bee or something like that.
Okay, good job. All right, and Christine.
Hi, I'm Christine. I'm with Ann in Greenland.
Okay. It's kind of dark. We can hardly see you, Christine, too. Okay, well, good. It's like I said, it was great to have you all join us today. So I am going to, you can actually probably turn off your videos if you want for a little bit and stuff, because I'm going to screen share and you won't be able to see anybody anyway. So, and hopefully, oops, no, I'm not screen sharing apparently at the moment. Hold on. I have to get my world organized. Okay. Sorry, technical difficulties with Janet here. Let's see. Judy, do you see? Let me know if you see anything. Would you see anything yet?
Yes. Yep. We see the very end.
Okay. Because I can't. It was on a different desktop. Sorry. I'm going to make you all very sick. Okay. There you go. All right, so we do have a little bit of a PowerPoint presentation here, and everybody sent in, all the teachers sent in slides that reflected on their experience, so we'll get to those in a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about, kind of give you an update on where we are with PolarTREC and some of the products, and then reflect on the experience, and then talk about how you guys all stay connected. So that's kind of where we're going to go today. This is you should all be seeing a slide that has the number of teachers that we've been supporting over since 2007, and we're really happy to have you now all officially on our little chart here to give you an idea of number of participants that we're hosting, and we have an 11 more that we're doing for 2017 and 18. So we're getting up there. Each year, you add a little bit more. This is just a rough overview of when we ask you to create lessons, or we ask you to participate in Polar Connect events, and all these other kinds of things. These are a little bit of the statistics. This actually is a little bit old in the sense that all the numbers have gone up, and I gotta give, I think it's DJ for Arctic and Obikara for the Antarctic, the queens of social media. Kelly, you did also really good too. We had a competition on number of hits, but there was some serious social media statistics that went on this year, and all because of Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, and it was really fun to see. So our outreach this year, you as a cohort did really, really well. And it was really the first year we started tracking social media. The data is not on here, but I was really excited to get some of that data back from some of you about your outreach efforts, because you went really far and really connected with a lot of people. So kind of to I guess get a sense of what you all have been doing since you got back. We did everybody's had their post-field calls, and people have been doing various outreach activities since school started, and we asked all the teachers to put together something that they've been can share of what they've been doing in the classroom, and to share what they've been doing as far as other outreach activities. So this is our chance to kind of hear from all of you about what those activities are. This is just to remind you who you were, which we already did, so I'll skip that. So the first one to talk, and I'm going to leave this slide up, Kelly, so I'm just have you unmute yourself, and then you can explain your slides that you sent in, if that works for you. And I'll switch them, and you just tell me when to go, because I think there's 2. Is it right, Judy? Everybody's got 2?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so Kelly, do you want to share your slide with us, please?
Sure. Sorry, I lost the mute button for a second. Got it. Okay, so my expedition was with NASA's Operation Icebridge in the Arctic. So just to remind everyone about what that project was, we were flying in an aircraft over the Greenland ice sheet and the Arctic Ocean, taking measurements on ice and like ice thickness, using different remote sensing tools. So, no, that's okay. So in the field, the job was to, every day we would have a science flight plan that we would go over, which you can see in the, like the first picture all the way on the left. That's an example of our flight map for our North Pole transect. So that's an example of what we would look at over before heading out into the field. And then in the Arctic, this past year, we partnered with NOAA's hurricane hunters, and so we were flying Miss Piggy over the ice sheet. So one of the big outreach tools that we used while in the field was NASA's Mission Tool Suite for Education. So we connected with a number of classrooms all over the country, right from the airplane, talking about what we were seeing, and they were able to follow our flights and track us using radar. So that was a really cool outreach tool, and one that we used with our students with Maggie's trip this past fall. So definitely a cool tool to use, and one that we can continue using every year as Icebridge and other airborne campaigns head out. So you have a few pictures of the team up in the plane, and John Woods and myself, my researcher, is the photo in the top right. So what we were doing, and one of the big things that I've been trying to bring into my classroom was understanding how the remote sensing process works. So what I have for you guys in the bottom right-hand corner are 4 samples of data, that preliminary data taken from some of the instruments on board. So there's an ice penetrating radar where we can get a sense of the thickness of the snow layered on top of the ice, which is in the top left. There's high resolution imaging instrument that can piece together snapshots taken from the plane and put together these incredible images, which you see in the right-hand side. And we're looking at a feature called a lead in that image. And then the bottom 2 photos, one is an infrared camera called the FLIR infrared imaging instrument, and that let us see changes in temperature over the water. So that warmer area is also likely a lead, an area of open water. And then the last photo there is an image from the Airborne Topographic Mapper, which gave us LiDAR data. So I've been using images like this in my classroom, both in an 8th grade science unit and in physics, to try to compare those images to what we would see with our own eyes looking out over the ice sheet or looking at a certain feature. And one project that I did in the classroom in 8th grade was just an introduction to remote sensing that aligned with our Earth Science unit that we'll revisit a little bit later. So under that little heading, PolarTREC in the classroom, they're using just Vernier instruments, using sonar to map something that they can't see in those aquariums and tanks. And then they use their data to try to translate it into the topography of random objects at the bottom of those tanks. And it was kind of cool for them to see how that all worked, and then they could do comparisons with the data from the iceberg images. Doing a lot of K through 12 outreach, so we brought students in from all grades into the high school lab, and my older kids helped do random, like different outreach polar lessons, like the blubber glove that's pictured, and trying on the extreme cold weather gear, even though we didn't need it out in the field where I was. Another big thing was I thought it was really important to take advantage, and I still think that that's one of the most powerful takeaways as far as outreach, bringing the stories back to my students and community members is the most powerful engagement tool, I think, right now. So what you see in the bottom left-hand corner, there is our NASA producer, Jefferson Beck, who does all of the videography and a lot of video journalism for NASA's Earth Science projects. And 2 of my students who got to come down to Goddard Space Flight Center and meet some of the research team members. And that was a really cool experience for them. So having that connection directly with the team was cool. And then they were able to bring it back and talk about it to their classmates. Also in sharing stories about not just the science and the research we were doing, but people we met along the way. So the other photos under that little outreach piece include 2 hunters that we met out in the field. That was Sofer and Gideon, and they were in the middle of a hunt, and we got to ask them some questions. I was thankful that we had journalist John Gertner out in the field with us, and he had some really good insightful questions to ask them. And we just learned about how their paths have been having to change over time because of changes in sea ice. So they've been having to take different routes. And when we met them, they were actually sharing their knowledge of the current paths with the Sirius Dog Patrol. Taking those stories from those people that live and breathe the Arctic and live and breathe climate change have been a really cool tool. And in the bottom is one of my heroes since I met him, who we sadly lost this year, is Dr. Pierce Sellers, and he's with one of the heads of the Sirius Dog Patrol out of Denmark, and just taking stories from those people who have been passionate about what they do and they're connected to the Arctic in some way have been really amazing tools. So the storytelling has been a huge piece all the way through. And then finally, the last little bit on the bottom right-hand side, you can see some of the outreach events that have happened. Did several talks at school. My students helped volunteer with me at a few booths over the summer at some different community festivals. And then I had a chance, thanks to the tip from Tim Dwyer, I had a chance to do a Nerd Night presentation. Right now, next steps include an NSTA presentation in the spring, and hopefully working better to develop those lesson plans that connect the ice bridge. So that is that. Sorry, I feel like that took a long time to go through, but
It's all right. It's awesome. Great job. Yeah, and if anybody, I can't see you, so, and you can't see me, so if anybody has questions about anything, just pipe in, say, unmute yourself and say, ask a question. So feel free to jump in at any time. Yeah, it looks like you've been really super busy, and great. Good job.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to turn this over to Anne. So go ahead, Anne, and tell us about your slides.
Okay, can you hear me through the computer? In other words, can you hear me right now?
We can hear you through both, Anne. So you need to use one or the other.
That's what I'm asking. Can you hear me right now?
Yes.
Okay, because I can't hear you without it. Okay, so let's see. So the pictures here are pictures from Greenland. And Christina's on the right, I'm on the left, obviously our names are there. The work that we were doing was focused on plants and insects. So on the left side, we're collecting bee bowls. What that meant is that once a week, bee bowls were laid down, bowls of soapy water were laid down up near the ice sheet and then near town away from the ice sheet. All of those. Do I need to do it this way?
That sounds good. Whatever you got right now is best.
Okay.
Keep talking.
Okay, good. So we collected insects every single week, and those insects were taken back to Dartmouth, and Christine has lab assistants who are counting all of the insects that were collected that way, not spiders, we disposed of them, but insects that could be pollinators, as I said before, mostly flies and mosquitoes. So that was a weekly project, 24 bowls at 15 sites near the ice and 24 bowls at 15 sites away from the ice. So that involved lots and lots of hiking, driving to each site and hiking from one site to the next. And then also, the biggest and most important part of the research had to do with how effective those pollinators are. So I'm thinking now I should have put in a slide to show hand pollinating the vaccinium, the blueberry plants. But that was a tiny little process using a cover slip for a microscope slide, and pollen was collected on that and then applied to plants at each site, to blueberry blossoms at each site, with the ultimate goal of figuring out to what extent the pollinators were effective, and probably not very, according to Christine. But then on top of that, at half of the sites, all the flowers in the vicinity were removed by hand. We picked every single flower within 15 meters of each site to see whether up near the ice, where the plants are all small, pollinators are effective for all the plants, and whether down away from the ice where there are some bigger plants, 2 meters kind of being the maximum, but down where there are bigger plants, whether the pollinators are then concentrating on the bigger plants and excluding the smaller ones, or whether they are pollinating both kinds of plants. The idea being, what do we expect to see next? So the sites near and far from the ice are different in several degrees Celsius, and that's what's predicted for that region of Greenland in the next 70 years. So what we're seeing away from the ice might be what we can expect near the ice. So the hypothesis is that this will give us a good picture of what to expect, what interactions between plants and pollinators occur, and whether the interactions, the success of the pollination will increase with temperature change and ice decline. So the pictures themselves show you the ice and the tundra, and then the Niviarsiak, the purple pink flowers there are not actually the focus plants because those blossoms are really, really tiny, but that's the national flower of Greenland. Niviarsiak, or river beauty. And the picture in the bottom right, that's maybe my favorite picture from the time I was up there. It shows you the land of the midnight sun. That picture's taken at almost midnight up near the ice sheet as the clouds are starting to break up at the end of a really cloudy day. So I have taken those kinds of activities, there we go, and there's the hand pollinating. So you can see those big fingers and those teeny tiny little blueberry blossoms. Very small work. So let's see, some things that I've done with my kids since coming back. Bottom left picture shows the bee bowls. We took bee bowls out and used them, 7th graders, to look for biodiversity in different kinds of habitats. So we used them on the school grounds. We used them out in a grassy area, a riparian area, because my classes planted a pond and pollinator garden last spring. So we went near that pond and then up at the edge of the woods. We had one disaster in the sense that the landscapers came through and ground to dust the bowls that we put in grass. But we did get enough diversity between a riparian system and a forest system to try to be able to make some conclusions. That was good for them. The picture of the bags to the right, those are the kinds of bags we collected of insects up in Greenland that went back to the lab with a little bit of ethanol to protect the organisms. I'm fascinated by permafrost, and a lot of your projects have to do with that. I went out in the field one day with one of the other researchers and collected permafrost samples and things like that, and brought back to my kids, for the 6th graders who do soil science, a lab in which we set up soil samples, froze them with some ice cubes in there, froze them. They put a building on there, we let them thaw, and that was a really good example of how unstable structures would be as the permafrost melts. And you can see some of my boys looking for things outside in that bottom right picture. And then Kelly talked about presentations and continuing ed afterwards. I went to the NSTA in Minneapolis, and that was wonderful. And I also did some things for Girl Scouts. But I have a whole bunch of things coming up, and they're the things I'm looking forward to. So I did a sustainability fair, city fair last fall, and then we have Polar STEM Family Day coming up. So I believe Kara's sending me the extreme cold weather gear, and I'll probably have that by tomorrow, even though, like Kelly said, we didn't wear it up where we were. And I borrowed Antarctic rocks, minerals, and fossils from the Polar Rock Repository, and those are in. So we have lots and lots of hands-on activities set up for families at the end of this month. And then I'm finally going to talk to my school community right after that, and kind of in conjunction with that, and a garden club who had a set of questions for me. So one of my journal posts was dedicated to them. And I've been to the public library and a retirement community, that one is set up to come next. So my community outreach is kind of ahead of me instead of behind me, which is different from your experience, Kelly, but I'm looking forward to those things. I'm starting to get excited about them. Oh, and the Geological Society of America meeting in Pittsburgh in March, which I'm on the planning committee for. So Stan, for example, I was just thinking that you're pretty local, and that's St. Patrick's Day weekend. There's a K through 12 Earth Science meeting on the Saturday and Sunday of that weekend. So is that a good sum of things that are going on?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it sounds good. And I just, you reminded me when we were doing, you talking about the ECW gear, that 2 of the bags, and I don't know where they are in the rotation, but 2 of the bags, we got CPS to add mosquito netting, some muck boots, and rain gear. So they're a little bit heavier. They have the Arctic summer stuff in them, but I don't know which bags they are and where they are in the rotation. So.
Okay.
Maybe I'll get it. All right. Thank you, Anne. Okay, we're going to turn this over to DJ so she can explain her slides. So go ahead, DJ.
Hi, everybody. So I went up to Toolik Field Station with the lovely researcher at the top left. I brought most of my researchers one of the lesson plans that I'd written about microbes before, which is a little like DIY microbe using one of the Scooz balls and a tube in between, because I really wanted to bring a sense of community and the idea of keeping things simple when you're trying to translate some of the really, very specific science of everything that we're doing. Let's see. These are some of the pictures from when we went up to the sites. The one on the bottom right is called the I series. And so we were working on a project that focuses on microbial biogeography, so how microbes move throughout the different through the Arctic tundra. And the I series in particular is very unique because they're all connected, and so they all feed into one another and then end up in Toolik Lake. And they're able to see the changes of the different types of microbes through their DNA when they move between these different locations. We also went to a lot of, not as remote one, because obviously this one was near Toolik Lake, which is where our field site was, but and so I went from 0 to 50 helicopter rides thanks to Dr. Crump during my time up in the Arctic. Let's see, the top right photo is a picture of one of the lakes that we saw right after it snowed, and I believe that's Lake I-4. And there's also a team of researchers that were part of the lake group that are collecting data in the middle of the lake of that picture. And I had a lot of trouble sleeping with the midnight sun, so the picture of me fishing is at 1 o'clock in the morning. But so what we would do when we got to each of our sample sites is we would collect water samples, and then so the middle picture on the bottom is a chalking gun, and so there's a syringe with a water sample inside, and then on the other end of it there's called a Sterivex filter, and it'll essentially sterilize the water. So sterile water will come out and all of the microbes will get stuck on the filter paper that's inside the filter, and then those are sent off for DNA analysis once they're back home or back from the field. And so Byron gets to take like hundreds of those back to OSU before he sends them off for genetic analysis.
Lucky Byron.
I know. Next slide. And so we've been doing a lot of stuff over here. I think Byron came down in November, and he was here for 2 days, and I set him up with 5 assemblies. So he went to 5 different schools and talked to all of the 4th and 5th grade students in those schools. So he talked to about 1,000 students in the 2 days that he was here. As you can kind of see the quantities in the picture on the top left. Part of the outreach that I did during the trip is I had each of my classrooms design a Arctic flag, and I every day would take a picture of the Arctic flag in the different field sites we were going, different locations, different people we were meeting, and made a video of all of the flags like right after each other. And then during a lot of assemblies I was able to give the teachers their flags back, which you can see in the middle picture. And we had the presentation. Both of us were wearing the extreme cold weather gear that none of us really wore during that trip. More desperately needed mosquito netting. And then he also visited my little kids.
Oops, we lost you, DJ. No, Judy, can you see her? DJ, no. I cannot hear you, and we lost you. Do you hear me, Judy?
Yes, I don't see her on anymore. I don't know if we lost her completely.
Okay. I don't know. I hear a voice in the background, but I can. Okay. Well, we'll see. You let me know when she comes back, and we'll come back to DJ. Okay, Judy.
Yep.
All right, we're gonna move on. Sorry.
No.
Oh, there she is. Now she's back.
She's back. Okay.
Sorry, I think I got kicked out. I'm almost done. I promise.
Okay. Yeah. Time limit.
Sorry. Yeah, I know. I think the system kicked me out. So he also presented to my K3 students, which is the bottom left, and I wrote some curriculum they were doing that was polar related. I presented with Karen at the North American Association for Environmental Educators, and that's our poster in the back. I also presented at AGU with Regina Brinker. And then I have 2 events coming up. One in February, I'm doing a teacher professional development session with some of the PolarTREC lessons here in Southern California. And then at AGU, there was a woman that communicates climate change through dance. And so we're gonna hold a dance assembly with some of my students when she comes in March.
Yeah, I remember meeting that lady. That was she was very fascinating. Well, that's cool. Very good. Nice.
All right, now I'm done.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. Yeah, I'm kind of out of the loop here because I realize you can see me and I can't see anything other than the screen. So very nice. We're going to turn this over to Stan. So go ahead, Stan.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
All right, so our project took place in northeastern Siberia. It was part of a project that my researcher, Mike Loranzi, and his team had been working on for multiple years. And the first couple of weeks we were there, we were really busy. Myself, Mike, and his postdoc, Heather Kropp, were busy setting up these instrumentation towers that you can see in the one picture there. We were setting them up to measure the amount of energy coming in and out of the system. And that one is, I believe that was the one in the high density forest, and we had one in a low density forest, like the one up in the picture that says field work. We were setting up TDP probes and heat flux plates and radiometers and all kinds of stuff to be able to measure that. You see a picture of Mike taking some tree core samples. The picture in the middle down is where we actually stayed, the Northeast Science Station, which was really neat. It was run by this family of scientists, the Zimovs, that were there all the time, and it was great, very family orientated kind of thing where everyone had dinner together at the end of the night with all the researchers and everyone else that was there, and their families as well. So it was a really nice feeling, kind of made you feel at home a bit. If you go to the next slide as well, on the next slide here, as part of this, I was able to, through Mike and his group here, able to meet a lot of other scientists and stuff that was able to take some opportunities to go down to this post-burn area down at the bottom they call the hellhole. So they were studying what is growing back after one of these big burns. Like I think that was 8 years ago, and they were studying the amount of methane coming in these thermokarst pools and stuff like that. We got to drill some permafrost ice cores in the middle, which was a lot of fun, a lot of work, and a lot of fun. And that who I'm with there is Luda Ludwig from Woods Hole Research Center, and she's processing all those cores as we speak, I believe. As far as outreach, Mike and I have, Mike and his undergrads and his postdoc have Skyped with my earth science classes to talk about the project, what it means to just do field science. A lot of them don't actually know what field science is, what it means to be a science undergraduate in college. A lot of them had questions about that. And we're following that up with a trip to Colgate in the spring, and I'm working on a mini field camp for a group of my students as I'm working with an outdoor education leader at Allegheny State Park as well. And hopefully that's all going to pan out. Well, definitely the trip to Colgate will, but hopefully the other one will as well. In the fall, I was able to see DJ and some of the other group at AGU, where I had a poster presentation with Mike, and that went really well. Recently, I've been awarded a position with the New York State Master Teacher Program, and I'll be presenting this group or this information to my group here as well. And that's been an exciting endeavor as we've recently been working on that come the new year here. Some of the other pictures that we have here, the low light picture was pretty much our last picture that that I took when we were there. It was starting to get a little bit dark, so as I was getting used to that 24 hours of light, it was getting a little bit dusk. It was probably like 3 in the morning or so, so it was just that little bit. But and at the top there, we had some interesting things. Being stranded on the Colima was a lot of fun, and what a great trip. So thank you very much.
Was that the one where it was just before you had your Polar Connect event?
Yes, rolled in about 40 minutes before our Polar Connect. That's, if I seemed a little tired, if anyone was listening during that, I know some of you guys were. Yeah, we had quite a long night on the river there. It was a lot of fun. But the guys at the station, Nikita and the Zimofs, were incredible with their knowledge of the area and how well they put our safety first. And it was pretty incredible to watch them, handle go through plan A, plan B, and plan C just to get us back safely. It was incredible. These guys are amazing.
All right, very good. And I apologize to the researchers that are online. I meant to also ping you after each of your teachers to get some feedback. So I'm going to see if Mike has anything he wants to add to this.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, no, I guess I think Stan kind of captured it all well. We had lots going on in the field and kind of collaborators there and other projects. So we tried to plug him into as much as we could, and just I thought the kind of Skype meeting that my group and I had with Stan's students in the fall was really great. And that's the second time we've met with them. And yeah, so I think those sorts of interactions are good. And I'm kind of happy to see other folks having interesting and successful interactions as well.
Okay, great. All right, thanks. Yeah, go ahead. Anybody else? Okay. Nope. All right, thanks, Stan and Mike. All right, we're going to turn this over to Karen.
Hello, everybody. So I got to go up to an area which you can see in the left-hand corner is Denali National Park. We were just outside of the park, and this is subarctic, not Arctic, and it was chosen specifically by the research scientist Ted Schur because this is an area where the permafrost is not continuous, and so there are a lot of edges to the permafrost, and therefore excuse me, I have something in my throat. So where you have edges, you have a lot of potential for change when the area starts to heat up. So it is about 2 hours south of Fairbanks, and on an area that, in a tundra area that has a couple of areas of water as well. There are 2 research sites. We spent most of our time at what's called CIPHER, and that stands for Carbon in, I always get this wrong, Permafrost Heating Experimental Research. And so the reason why it's outside of Denali is because if you're inside a national park, you cannot manipulate the research site. So we were located outside, and we were able to manipulate it by placing snow fences. The snow fences collect the snow, in these piles, and this snow fence, these piles of snow act as insulation for the ground. So what we're trying to do is kind of mimic what would happen in the future when warming continues to warm up the soil. And so after the spring, when the spring comes, these snow piles need to be removed so the snow, the ice melt, the snow melt doesn't impact the study. And then we have various replicates placed on the tundra, and the area that is not with the snow fences is considered the control. And so we're collecting data about how much carbon is released from the soil respiration, how much carbon is taken in by photosynthesis of the tundra plants. We're also measuring greenness, how much photosynthesis is actually. You can see that in the upper two images, I'm measuring the depth to the permafrost and then also the depth to the water table, and both help us understand how much thawing is going on as a result of the warming. And then in the lower right-hand corner is really where a lot of the important data is collected in these chambers, which open and close periodically, capturing the atmospheric concentration of carbon dioxide. And we would go out to this area on planks, on boardwalks, so that we wouldn't impact the tundra quite as much as we would if we were just walking continually on that bare tundra. Let me see. We spent a great deal of time, let me tell you, collecting blueberries for consumption. So we made pies and we made blueberry muffins. It was really fun. That was our entertainment. At least it was for me and Marguerite, who loved to blueberry pick. So that was really fun. And we, it was not as remote as I think some of the other research stations. We had access to vehicles to drive us to our research site, but it was still incredibly beautiful and wild. We had some bears cross our research site, and we had access to go hiking in Denali on our days off, so that was really lovely as well. Before I got there, it rained pretty much every day for weeks and weeks and weeks. And luckily, by the time I got there, I think the rain season had started to taper off. And so we didn't have quite as much problem with the rain. There was a team, about, I want to say 5 or 6 of us, and each of us was doing different work, and I got to participate in all of the research at different times. So that was really, really wonderful to get an idea of the different kinds of data collection and how the research plots were laid out. And kind of thinking of this research project's been going on for about 7 years. And so there's already data, and we're able to compare the data from each year and see the trends. And so that's been really useful to me as a teacher, to be able to have access to that data and have Marguerite help me understand what the data means. And so our lesson that we've developed, or which we haven't posted yet, but we will momentarily, is really about graph and data interpretation. And we had my students practice that last semester and see how this particular lesson went. So that was really, I think, a really valuable thing for us to do before we posted the lesson, was to make sure that it worked. Since I returned to school, I have made, while I was in the area, Denali, we made 2 presentations at the national park to the public. So that was really lovely. One was a more hands-on presentation, while the other one was a more formal presentation. And then when I returned, I have made a number of different presentations. Like DJ said, we traveled out to Madison, Wisconsin for the NAAE conference, and we both made poster presentations there. I've also, the school that I work at has about 1,200 students, 6 through 12, and so I made a series of 4 different presentations to the students. And on the left-hand side, you can see me making a presentation. And I have to say that I was fortunate enough to drive from Albuquerque all the way up to Denali, and so my journey was a part of my polar blogging. So what you see in that picture is the 5th largest glacier in the world, called Salmon Glacier, and it's on the border of Alaska and the United States. And what else? Oh, some of the things that I've done in my classroom, you can see on the right-hand side, the students have made little eco-columns, and that's just part of the eco-column, and we'll be measuring CO2 using probes to kind of understand the carbon cycle, and then bring in the idea of what happens with climate change. And then lastly, one of the biggest things that I've been working on with my older students is something called StoryMap, which is an ArcGIS software program that allows you not only to tell a story, but using maps and data interpretation. So I had my students, each one of them chose a different polar system around the globe, and they made a kind of like a blog, more like a website story about what's happening in each of those systems. And I made a link. They had to read about one of the research projects in the PolarTREC group. And so one of the students chose the taiga, or the boreal forest, and so he was directed to Stan's work and had to make a little presentation about what Stan was doing. So each of them kind of dove into one of the projects. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
All right, very good. I love seeing the collaboration on posters there. It's awesome, guys. Okay, I understand Katrina has to leave soon. So we have good timing here. Sandy, it's your turn to present.
All right, here I am. When I look at this, I like to theme this from the micro to the macro, because when students or community members hear about the Arctic, the first things they think about are the big name things, polar bears. But that's actually such a tiny part of the Arctic system. So as we look at these pictures, one of the things that I did that surprised my students, some of the lab work that we do in the classroom were things that we did on the ship. So that was almost a surprise to them, because they often don't make those connections. And sieved a lot of mud to help some grad students who were collecting, and also for Katrin. And filtered a lot of water. And in the bottom, we're looking at some bacteria that were collected from ice. And then in the middle, you see this lovely picnic linid, or sea spider, and you would see it through the lens of the ROV, and then you would bring it up, and it was just this amazing thing to have seen it in its environment, and then to have it in your hand as well. And then in the bottom right, we did get onto the ice. I think 2 different days groups got onto the ice. And that was surreal, to be standing there on the ice 2,000 meters above the seafloor. The pictures don't show. We were actually stuck in ice for a few days, and I didn't make a big deal of that on my blog, because students and community members want to use that as a cry against climate change. So I kept that pretty low key. But getting to learn from experts, there were so many people at differing stages of their science careers, from students who were working on master's degrees to doctoral to postdoc to established scientists like Katrin, and then all of the technicians and other skills that went with it. And that's something really big that I can share in my classroom, because students might not have the desire to have a PhD in biology, but they might have a desire to be an ROV pilot or something like that. And then also just everything was a new experience. You read about it. I don't know that there's any way you can fully prepare yourself, because every day is a new day with new experiences. We can flip to the next one. And we have a new guideline at school. We're not supposed to be posting student photos. So these are some of the things that I take to my students. And again, as I said, I look at it from the micro to the macro. We studied biodiversity, and students don't think of sea stars or jellies or these beautiful polychaete worms like in the bottom right corner. They tend to think of the walruses and polar bears. And it just builds so much student excitement. I've gone back to all of the K-8 classrooms. I had visited all of them before the trip, so I've now made the rounds back to them, and that's an ongoing practice actually. I've done a lot of community presentations. I was sidelined by shingles, so I didn't get to present at the Columbus NSTA or the Virginia Science Conference. So I've tried to focus outreach then more on classroom within my school and within the community. And again, as we look at it, there's just so much more than polar bears in the Arctic, and I hope that I've been able to bring some of that to the students and the community members that I work with.
I don't know, that's quite the polar bear picture.
That is, and we saw a few polar bears. My photography skills are not that great. I was happy and surprised.
Yeah, no, these are great. All right, so I know Katrin has to leave here soon, so is there anything you want to add to Sandy's presentation or your thoughts about outreach? And
No, I think Sandy did a great job showing what we've done and highlighting sort of the diversity of the things we did. She and I have been talking about, maybe me coming down, and it's something we need to pick back up again and sort of make, really plans for this. So I think there's going to be a lot more to come, but no, it's great.
Okay.
Yeah, and sorry I have to cut out.
That's all
Thank
right.
you, Katrin.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. And yeah, remember, for the two of you, we do need to pick back up on that travel.
Yes.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Katrin.
Good night.
Bye.
All right. Good job, Sandy. It looks really, really fun. I'm sorry that you had shingles, though. That does not sound fun. All right. Deep roots. Miss Nell.
So I will try to make this nice and short for us because I see that it's already 6 o'clock.
It's okay.
And you might hear my dog in the background because I can't take him out. But I actually only have I don't have any pictures of well, let me this first picture because I'm going to Tulik. But I went in a different season, so I went in the fall, and I really just love this picture because it shows how the tundra changes in September, late August and September. So I just wanted to include it because I just thought it was just such a beautiful picture. So we can go to the next slide. So this picture, I kind of tried to throw everything about our project into one slide. So in the bottom right-hand corner and the top right-hand corner is Becky Hewitt, the researcher I work with. And what her study was entailed, we were looking to see as the permafrost thaws, there are a lot of plants that have their root system very deep in the permafrost, but unfortunately we're not sure if their root system is deep enough to access the nutrients as the permafrost thaws, because as we all know, the permafrost is thawing. And so what she was doing, if you look in the bottom right-hand picture, she is injecting a nitrogen tracer into the roots of the soil. And actually she had these long injecting needles made that went down to the layer of thaw and freeze in the soil to get the nitrogen deep into the roots. And so then the plants were then, if you see in the upper left-hand picture, the plants were then picked apart from the above ground to the below ground to see where nitrogen ended up 24 hours later. And she did a study a year ago in Healy, Alaska, and we checked to see, she did a nitrogen tracer study a year ago to see where that nitrogen ended up 1 year later. So after we left Tulik in September, she brought all of her samples back to the lab. And if you see in the lower left-hand corner, you can see that everything is labeled very properly with above ground, what type of root it was, what type of plant it was, what plot it came from, whether or not it was a control, etc., so that she can then figure out where the nitrogen ended up in these samples. And so she has sent her samples to be processed. They are in the process of processing right now. She has gotten some preliminary research back from last year's samples. And it is looking very positive. It is looking like some of these roots are able to access these deep nutrients. That could be really important when thinking about the feedback system that's in place. You know, a lot of people are really concerned that as the permafrost thaws, all of that methane and all of that carbon that is locked in the permafrost is then going to be released into the atmosphere.
Did we lose now?
Yep, I think so. Oh, no, I see that she's still on.
Now, if you can hear us, we can't hear you. Shoot. Wonder what happened there. Sounds like she might have been dropped like DJ.
Hello?
Hello, we hear you. Okay.
Oh, okay, now I'm back.
You're back.
Okay. So I was just saying that the preliminary results of her study are really exciting because if plants are then able to access these deep nutrients, they may be able to grow bigger and faster and take in some of that resulting carbon dioxide that will be released as the permafrost thaws. One thing that was really interesting when I was there was that if you look in the upper right-hand corner, there's another sign.
Oh, now you cut out again. Strange.
Okay, got me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, the microphone keeps cutting in and out. But so Becky was working with climate modelers, which is it was really fascinating to me to see how she could, was hoping to take her research so that other scientists would then be able to make models of these systems to sort of see, to make predictions about what might happen should these plants be able to access these nutrients, and so then can make predictive models about what could happen to our climate and our.
And we lost you again now.
I know. I can see that the microphone keeps going in and out. So, am I back?
Yeah. You're back.
Okay. One of the biggest pieces of outreach we did was actually when I was in the field.
Oops, sorry.
That's okay. My students wrote extensive questions. So my 8th graders who were actually still on summer break wrote these amazing questions while I was out in the field. They read my journals. So much so that Becky and some of the other scientists that were there were just like flabbergasted that these 8th graders would be asking these questions. Something that I hope, I teach biology to 8th graders, so it hasn't really been appropriate in the first semester for us to sort of build lessons.
And you're gone again now.
Okay,
Come back.
hello?
Yep, we can hear you very lightly.
Okay. But I was just saying that we're hoping that in the spring, because of the biology curriculum, that we'll be able to maybe build some lessons around plant structure and access to those nutrients.
All right. Very
And then
cool.
I think that's it. Yeah.
We might as well. We're good now. We lost the microphone like 5 times with you.
I could say more, but I'll stop there.
No, I do want to give Becky a chance to chime in here if she has anything she wants to add.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. I guess I'll just say that the journal posts that Nell used were so effective at explaining what we're doing in a step-by-step process, from the labeling to the harvest to breaking things down into plant and fungal species, that we've actually used them several times as we bring on new cohorts of undergraduates that work in the lab. And it just really shows them, okay, you're now helping to grind all these samples and get them ready for different sort of chemical analyses, but here's where these samples came from. So I was able to use those posts several times in the fall semester as we brought people into the lab to work on those. So that was really nice to have such an immediate resource on hand.
Excellent. That's a great point. I think Karen's researcher Marguerite, same thing. She used not only some of the blogs, but photos and PowerPoints that Karen produced, and because she wanted access to all of that stuff so that she could use it for her own work as well. That's fantastic. That's great. Thank you, Nell and Becky. I wanted to give Christine and Byron a chance to jump in and share anything too, since I didn't remember that you were on earlier. So my apologies. So Byron, anything you want to add about outreach or working with your teacher afterwards?
Byron had a class at 4. He left already.
Okay, see, I can't see anything anymore. I'm just staring at Nell's picture here. How about Christina?
No, sorry, I didn't realize I was supposed to be saying something.
Well, you don't have to. I'm just asking. Do you have anything you want to add?
No.
Okay. No, I had started asking researchers, so I just want to make sure. Okay. Well, thank you all for sharing. It was good to see what you're all up to. Lots of really, really nice things. And I got to say that I wish I could have, and maybe next time I'll do this, the before and after, like when you all had to explain your research project. I remember you all at orientation explaining your research project, and what you can explain now, it's like way up there. It's just an amazing difference, and you're so confident, and you're like just talking about all this stuff. It's just a really, really dramatic difference on my part. I can totally see that you sorry, I have to reach my pen. See that you've really learned a lot, and have really incorporated it into what you're doing at school and everything. So it's fun to see. It's really good. So I know that we're over time, so I just want to wrap up a few things here. So you have another, this is just a reminder, if you haven't paid attention, there are 3 teachers from your cohort that are in Antarctica right now, and Judy put this together to kind of let you know about some upcoming events. There's definitely some Polar Connect events, and they're posting on Facebook and Twitter. So just to let you know what's going on there. I have a few reminders that I wanted to share with you. If you haven't finished your program requirements, like now let's talk about lessons and things like that, that's fine. Just keep Judy and myself posted on where you are with that. One of the big things with lessons, and I know, I think like Anne sent me her lessons during the summertime. I don't know, it's been a while. What we've done is we are switching our from Janet having to upload the lessons to you having to upload the lessons, but it's going to be through a web form, and it's getting switched over the next couple weeks for the new orientation. So you may see an email if you've already done with your lessons that comes back to you that says, hey, it's your turn to cut and paste this into our web form. And same with STEM reports. We're switching that up as well so that it doesn't have to rely on me. So I know some of you have been really great on requirements, just wanting to let you know that some of those last pieces are lingering, not because of you, but because of me. Evaluation, we will have an evaluation in the spring. If for some reason you got a new batch of kids this semester that you didn't have last semester, let me know about that. I don't think there's anybody that has that group, but if you did for some reason have a whole new class or whatever, we should talk to the evaluator about doing a pre-post survey with those students. At researchers, you'll be getting a survey also in the spring this year. That's for you. And expedition pages and journaling, everything is still there. You can keep using those spaces for as long as you want. So if your researcher goes back out this spring or summer, feel free to continue following them. You can post on their behalf while they're out in the field and share, what they're doing over the next season. If you do some even other kind of crazy professional development, I know some other people have done things in the summer and they've used their web pages, their expedition page to kind of share this new part of a research or professional development that they're involved in. So those tools are always there for you. Social networking tools, again, not only are they good for your current cohort, this group was awesome, like I said at the beginning, but it's also going to be a good way to connect with our new group. Travel request, some of the funding is starting to wrap up for this particular group. So if you have things that you want to do this spring, whether you go visit your researcher or the researcher comes and visits you in your classroom, you really need to start thinking about that. And also, if you want to do something over the summertime or in the fall, if you think you have some conferences. So please start planning some of that travel out now and getting back to us about that. And I don't have any other future PolarTREC proposal. Just to give you an update, I submitted, I think just before Christmas, a proposal to NSF for a 5-year project. It's going to be a research combination program. So I'll keep you posted, but right now that's all pending, or not even pending, that's in review. So we have no future beyond the 2017-18 funding that we currently got. So. But always email me if you got questions about that. I'm going to stop sharing, if I can figure out how to stop sharing. Did I stop yet? Or are you still seeing my desktop?
We're still seeing your desktop.
Yeah, well, now you're going to see lots of things on my desktop. Okay. I am trying to find Zoom here. Sorry, because I have multiple desktops. It just,
there you go.
All sorts of places. So anyway, and if you're off and you didn't, you can turn back on your videos. So does anyone have any questions or parting comments or thoughts before we head off? Mostly, again, this was just an opportunity to catch up with everybody and see what everybody was up to. Looks like I lost a few people, mostly researchers.
Well, thank you for everything. I think it was really cool to see everyone again and hear what everyone's been up to. So thank you for getting everything organized and all the support over the past year.
You're welcome.
Agreed.
Good. Yeah, and like I said, Judy and I are here, so if something comes up, just let us know and keep us posted of your plans, and you know, we'll try to keep you in the loop and focus, you know, on you. But I gotta tell you the truth, when the new cohort comes in, our focus quickly shifts there. So just keep pinging us. You know, we'll eventually. I know, like Anne, you sent an email, and Sandy too. You know, and I'm like, oh my God, that was like 3 days ago. But there's like all these other little things going on in the thing. So you know, if you haven't heard from us a while, and you know you sent something, and we should be looking at something, just say hello. Please look at that. So it's not like we're trying to ignore you, but yeah. And also related to orientation, I figured your group is relatively still trying to process the whole thing, but if there is something in particular that you even like words of wisdom about orientation that you want to share, that now that you've had time to at least reflect back on orientation, that Judy and I should pass on to the new cohort, that would be great. So feel free to share us your words of wisdom or a particular topic or resource or something that you particularly love. We'd like to have that. And the orientation here is coming up February 5th. So we do usually ping the alumni to go in and post journals and comments. You know, once everybody starts finding their expedition page, I'll announce that. And then you can say hello and welcome and all that kind of stuff to the new participants. So. All right. Well, thank you. I don't have anything else. Judy, anything you want to add? No? Anybody else? Okay. All right. Well, it was great seeing you. And thanks, everybody. Hope you all have the rest of a good evening here.